at the end of the day, people want to know who you are. I think that's a significant factor. If people are looking outside of business, so yeah, that's another thing that I think a lot of people experience. Let's say that someone is looking for a website, Facebook ads, etc., agency, and let's say that they see something that is, full of results. They're still thinking, is this really real, or are they just going to sell me something? Is it going to be too expensive? Is it actually going to work?
Hello, I'm Marcus Freed, and welcome to the Freedthinker. This is where we talk to business owners and thought leaders, look at cutting-edge marketing techniques to see what's working in today's business climate, how to market on a shoestring, and essential skills to get heard above the noise of the competition. I run Freedthinking, which is a growth marketing agency based in London and Los Angeles, and I'm delighted to welcome today's guest. Ari Sherbill is an entrepreneur and a marketing expert. He's trained Fortune 1000 teams, tens of thousands of small business owners, creators, Hollywood studios, universities, and teachers. His tech startup Soji is the Wix for NFTs, where creators create their own NFTs in a click. Prior to moving into the world of entrepreneurship, Ari worked as the rabbi of a Jewish community in Nova Scotia, Canada, and he currently lives in Israel. Good morning, Ari.
Good morning, Marcus. Really good to see you.
It's good to see you too. So this is now, 10 years since we met or something like that in a conference in San Diego. Business Growth Conference. San Diego.
Almost 10 years October.
It's amazing. And I've always been intrigued and inspired by your approach when it comes to taking on new projects, new tech, going into new startups and staying really at the cutting edge. What do you think is currently working? What's currently happening in the world of marketing?
Well, what I think what everybody sees is what's working is storytelling, vulnerability, and authenticity. Now that comes different depending on the platform. Like being authentic and transparent and telling a story on YouTube is different than, let's say, LinkedIn, where I've seen a lot of companies take off just by being really vulnerable and really honest. For example, I saw on LinkedIn today a post from a woman who is closing her premium high-end t-shirt shop that she had started up, and she gave a whole reason why she's closing it. Now, most people are not going to share their story of why they're closing, but she gave it really detailed and really specific, and ultimately it's a vulnerable story. Where it actually, I saw in the comments, people were interested in buying her t-shirts afterwards, which was not her intention. Now that's a written post. It's vulnerable. That's different than, a strategy on YouTube, for example. But I think ultimately what people want, because there's an over saturation of information, content, video, advertising, marketing, what stands out is people being human. And what's human is vulnerability and being yourself and telling stories, which is not as easy as it sounds.
So let's look at this, because I think this is very interesting. The idea of being vulnerable and sharing stories. I'd seen, I think, both sides or two sides of the coin, one being English, but then being in California for so long, and then being within the self-development, the self-transformation community, where sharing went off the charts and without boundaries, and vulnerability became the new confidence. And there is a, well, I'm gonna try and not go Kabbalistic with this, because we spend hours a week talking about that stuff, but there seems to be a lack of balance. And I saw this in the late 2000s in London before I left, where men's groups started to become the thing. And a friend of mine, a male friend, we'd hang out, and he just want to share. I'm like, dude, I'm here for you as a friend, but take this to the therapist. So where is the balance?
Great question. So again, obviously the context is critical. So it really depends. Part of my answer was also within the context of B2B, B2C, tech startups, or startups in general. That's a very different world than the coaching world, which you referenced, and that I definitely spent years in and am deeply familiar with. I would even say that there's a coaching business that I helped launch the past 6 to 8 months. We've done multiple six figures. Part of that was telling the story. What I would say is that everything has a balance or a bouquet. One of the things that I noticed that people really, really loved and used, that I've given a lot of trainings on, that people asked for the recording, and one of the templates was a copywriting training. one of the things that people wanted is a formula and a structure. So I would definitely say that if someone is just being vulnerable all day long, it's going to get boring. It's
Right.
not interesting. But I think the general context is you being you. It's a conversation we had about one of the things that works on social media content is you being you. You being you means you, and you can often be multiple facets of who you are. So you, for example, as we've talked about, I hope it's okay to use you as an example.
Please.
I encourage, and I think that your community and your audience and more people would be interested in the multiple facets of who you are, which is you're a marketer, you're a Facebook ads expert, you're a author, you're a coach, you're deep into Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism and Jewish thought. You've written books on that. That's a multiple range of things, not to mention
And
your
an
expertise in
actor.
yoga
Yeah.
and an actor, and you've done movies, and you're an expert in movie
Yeah.
making, and depending on the budgets, and there's a lot just in that. So there's a range. I think it has to do with the bouquet, like multiple, sort of
Right.
like a recipe. Most really good recipes have more than one ingredient. The best ones have multiple ingredients, and that takes time.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's really appreciate that. It's interesting as well. Like I'm just continually looking, okay, well, what's the story? Because for me at this point, 20, 25 years in, I've realized marketing is storytelling. But which may sound completely obvious, but from my perspective, coming as an actor and a writer and filmmaker, like that background, seeing that the story is at the heart of it, and how we're telling it, and also then how we're evolving and retelling our story. My current incarnation, I haven't even spoke. I mean, although we spoke yesterday, I haven't told you this. Like it just occurred to me. Well, I've got three. If I had to put it down to three strands, my three strands are entrepreneurship, entertainment, and enlightenment. Or I put it another way: entertainment, enlightenment, and entrepreneurship. The entertainment being my acting, pure creative, the writing, the comedy writing, and so on. The enlightenment being the Jewish spiritual learning, which is really ultimately world wisdom, the Kabbalah and Torah, and so forth. And then the entrepreneurship, which is the whole business consulting, marketing piece, and how we're telling these stories. I think the vulnerability is, but it's also a story of what's going to be relevant to the group. Like I'm not going to spill a bunch of insecurities just to get a therapeutic buzz. It's like, how's this going to help someone within the story? And I
Exactly.
think
And
that's really
vulnerability is it's an ingredient. There are other ingredients. There's a call to adventure. There's a mission. There's a purpose. There's a nightmare. There is a discovery, and all of those there's meeting your mentor. That's just part of the story. Not to mention, and one thing I didn't mention is part of marketing is also very significant is education, is giving actual usable takeaways. So, for example, one of the things I don't know if people are as familiar with this. Guinness World Records is part of the beer taking off. Is that they created a record? In other words, it was obviously different than the beer, but they created a way of doing records for different things. Michelin Michelin took off because they created training guides on their on their
right.
stuff. In other words, how to use it. Those are like old classic stuff. So ebooks and training guides has obviously been used, but a lot of oftentimes in a B2B context, if you give actionable, usable things, it can be very, very valuable.
It's interesting. Thank you. I mean, I think the showing up. Yeah, we're actually launching. We made the website last year and just haven't launched it yet. But I wanted to do something within the Jewish yoga community because one of the sites I run is the Jewish Yoga Network, and so I've set up Jewish Yoga Awards, and a couple of people were like, "Hang on, you can't give awards for yoga," and it's like, okay, that's fair enough. But actually, the subtitle or the mission is recognizing excellence in teaching embodied Jewish spirituality. So recognizing excellence in teaching embodied spirituality. But as a way of, it wasn't actually meant as a marketing thing, but I think just an interesting way of acknowledging teachers. But it's interesting the way you've articulated that. So yes, so Guinness are doing this, Michelin stars is a way of building. And if we were to dial this into local business, a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC for the English heating. I can't forget what was it, air conditioning, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or the local computer supplier, or like computer tech or beauty salon. Where's the vulnerability coming out? Through the local electrician who's marketing his or her business online. How does
Well,
that fit
first
in?
of all, yeah, great question. So first of all, I gave this example also to cab drivers, like Uber drivers in Israel, get drivers, the same concept, but they would definitely apply to plumbers or hair salons. Number one, first of all, the takeaways are super useful because everybody lives somewhere and everybody has a bathroom and everybody has a shower and toilet and sink, etc. Common mistakes, common things that get plugged in. Just being on the camera telling that. Now, not everybody is comfortable on camera. It can be in text, or you can have maybe
Yeah, yeah.
someone who's close to you who has a more natural ability and gift to be able to communicate these kinds of things. But if a plumber were to say, like literally, like take the iPhone and he's in a sink and he's like, look at this sink. It has X, Y. Here's what I'm going to do, and he shows how to fix it, or a clog in it, or a clog in a drain, or something like that. Or same thing with a barber. Like most people think that they need to do like expensive haircuts, or you need to go, spend go out to a barber in order to get your hair done. Here's 3 tips that I show every single day how to look better. And whatever they would do, I obviously have no idea what that would be. And again, incorporate someone who's close to you who has more natural gift to do it if you're not able to, or it's not in your territory. I gave the same thing to cab drivers, of
Mm.
just literally telling stories of, I'm driving right now through wherever I am, and I just met this really cool guy. I took their kid like just telling stories. It's interesting because of the authenticity. Most people are not. Most people want to meet real people because everything is
I
oversaturated
think
and
that,
very produced.
yes, I think it's the authenticity piece of vulnerability doesn't necessarily mean saying, I just woke up and I felt awful this morning. I'm depressed about my life because my neighbor's got a Porsche and I've only got a Maserati, or someone talking about their wife leaving them, or whatever it happens to be. I mean, there may be a place for that, but actually, the vulnerability is saying, "Here I am." So one thing I'm doing with an LA client who's a building contractor, getting them on site, sometimes talking about, hey, this is what we're doing with a balcony inspection, or this is something about the earthquakes that's just happened in Los Angeles, and how we've strengthened buildings through the seismic retrofitting. But also, I'm here on holiday and we've just given money to this charity and we're just doing this. And what I've been trying to encourage in terms of the story that they're telling, saying, look, someone goes online, they're in Los Angeles and they want to get a home remodel done. There's a choice of many different building contractors. So what's going to mark you apart? One thing which can mark you apart is you. Just show up, say hello, because if I'm building, I've got my 4-bedroom house in Beverlywood in West LA, and I'm like looking online, contractor. If I end up on your social media, I see you speaking, I check out some of your reviews on Yelp, and I might think, okay, great, I like the feel, I like the vibe here. This is someone who appeals to me. But so that's one way, and I hadn't heard that articulated on the outside. But how does that land in terms of vulnerability with marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might fit more into authenticity, but the vulnerability sort of
Okay.
fits in. I think and they go hand in hand, and it's very close. I would also just add one of the biggest maybe myths or misconceptions, or maybe a better word is associations that people have around creating content is, I'm only going to do this if this like takes off, and it's only going to be valuable if this reaches hundreds of thousands or millions of people. The fact is, unless you're in the business of reaching millions of people, if you're a local hair salon, plumber, taxi driver, to increase your business by 50%, how many people is that a week or a month? So if you have, 400 people watch something, if you have 50 people, if you have 10 people watch something, and they're in your location, and it's also part of that's also part of the value of the content. Like if you're making this, hey, I'm in whatever, Des Moines, Iowa, where I'm in, Austin, Texas, wherever you are, and adding that in the context when people are searching, that comes, and then when people search for it and they find it and it's geolocated, it makes it much more relevant. So it's a big shift from thinking this needs to be seen by millions of people to, if this gets seen by 20 people a week over the course of 3 months, most likely it's going to generate business. Now, then the next question is, well, how does it generate business? And it's a different question of how you can finish and integrate different calls to action and different lead magnets, what's called ways of attracting people to the business. But honestly, it's just you being you. People will find you when you're you.
So this is extra interesting just because of what we're actually doing right now. And like my intention with the Freedthinker podcast with these conversations is to generate some interesting conversations we're having anyway off camera, but to share this with people. And I'm presenting Freedthinking, his marketing agency, primarily three things: content or growth strategy, promotional video and digital advertising, also some of the other marketing services, websites and so on, but really offering this out to businesses, which are generally small to medium size, anything up to a $5 million turnover. And if someone goes online looking for any of these services, there are endless amounts of different agencies, different freelancers who are offering these things. So how would you say the vulnerability plays in here using vulnerability-based marketing?
A great question. Well, first of all,
you're so gracious. Thank you, Ari.
At the end of the day, people want to know who you are. I think that's a significant factor. If people are looking outside of business, so yeah, that's another thing that I think a lot of people experience. Let's say that someone is looking for a website, Facebook ads, etc., agency, and let's say that they see something that is, full of results. They're still thinking, is this really real, or are they just going to sell me something? Is it going to be too expensive? Is it actually going to work? So if someone's looking someone up and they come to Freedthinking and they're interested in hiring you to do Facebook ads or website development or whatever, one of the multiple excellent services that you offer, if they watch a bunch of videos, it's like, this guy's a real guy. Now, that's only one of the ingredients. This is a real person. As you talk about one of the other ingredients that we didn't yet speak about, authenticity, transparency, education, a significant one is social proof. One of the things we hired you when we were doing their last year with the earlier stages of Soji, I hired you because you were talking about the work that you were doing for We Make Movies, I hope, or for a client, where you were getting incredible results, and you were telling that to me as a friend, and you were excited about the results. You weren't trying to sell me. I think you were just excited, and I was like, those are incredible results. So as a friend, I was happy for you, and as a human being who there was something in my brain that, well, at some point, if I will need Facebook ads, I'm definitely going to hire Marcus, which is what we did. So I think just the social proof is significant, and then you telling that story. So I think even if you had a clip or a piece or a case study, the more social proof, it's very significant. So there's the ingredient of Marcus is a real person, or business is a real person. So I can therefore I can trust them, and therefore if I hire them, they're going to do what they say. B, there's social proof, so they're showing the actual results of how they've helped clients, of how they turn a $1 into $2 or more, specific insights into how they strategically do that, and then the story of why they're doing this in the first place, so that there's an attraction to do it. And again, there's like a whole lot more. We're not even talking about authority. We're not talking about likability. We're not talking about reciprocity. Those are all obviously all the psychological triggers in the influence from Cialdini, who did this. That's another interesting thing. I was surprised that more people don't know about Cialdini from Arizona State University.
How do you spell that? Cialdini? How do you spell that?
Cialdini.
Okay.
Yeah. His first book was Influence. It's just fundamental and foundational. It's a great read. It's really It's really, really
Okay,
interesting. The question is, how do I
I will
influence
check.
people? Yeah.
Right. I think it's yeah. Well, I'll add that to the notes and thank you. It's maybe we'll wrap on this point because there's a lot of conversations. I didn't know we were going to go down this route, but it actually seems really apropos for 2023, really apropos for right now, how people are sharing their stories and how people are being vulnerable. And even as you're talking about me and the work we've done together, part of like I feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's the English thing of, oh, can I really share this? You know, this is me focused, but it's not. This is the whole point: is we are putting ourselves out there, and part of the challenge, I think, for many, many people is being able to put themselves on camera, being able to put themselves out there and say, well, why me? I don't want it to make it about me, but it's not about you. That's the whole point. It is that human connection. So if we were to drill this down, let's say to one or two takeaway hard advice points that someone who wants to grow their business, get out there, how they can create material or they can put themselves out there. And I want to say with a caveat, um, whilst there is an importance about the conversation about mental health, I'd certainly encourage people, let's just not talk about depression and anxiety and bipolar and ADHD diagnoses. Let's put diagnoses aside, all this kind of stuff. How can we try and find a new, more positive form of vulnerability to share within the business?
Yeah, great question. Number one, I say just talk about the work that you're doing. Just talk about the work that you're doing. The way, if you consistently get comfortable, as in the same way that, I don't know, like a plumber, using the plumber example, if a plumber's their day to day is showing up to a client's customer's person's house to do the work, if they consistently, okay, part of my schedule, and again, if it's not comfortable for you, integrate and ask someone who's close to you who has a more natural ability and gift to talk about it, or help you, or just hold the phone. Just talk about the work that you're doing. I'm going to this house to do
Great.
this. They
So
have a
case
drainage
studies.
problem.
Great.
Case studies,
Yes, I
yeah,
love
just
it.
this is, or this is just the work that I am doing. Talk about the work that you are doing. It could be framed as case studies. It could just be framed as I am doing this today. And that is building. And as you get comfortable and consistent in doing that, you will automatically be doing the things that, and that's number one. Number two, understand what works in terms of influencing people. And when I mean influencing people, I mean is what is valued by other people, which is people value someone who is likable, meaning they're showing up as themselves. Number two, they're giving social proof of how they're helping people. Number three, they are an authority in terms of they have an expertise in something, and that's how they add value, and they're paid for the value that they add. And then the second thing that I would say to answer the question about the vulnerability, I think the vulnerability is just you being you. I think it's vulnerable just to be you, just to show up
Right.
consistently. It doesn't have to, I think there's some kind of an association of, being vulnerable now. Now, that's obviously not, if the only ingredient is salt or sugar or flour, it's not an actual dish. It's not an actual nutritional food. It needs other things in order to be the same thing with even vulnerability is just part of it. We need authority. You need, who are you? What's the work that you're doing? How are you adding value? How are you helping people? And also the consistency, by the way, is one of the triggers, which is interesting. It's being consistent, because it's not so simple to be consistent, and that's something that you hear also in people that are consistent. It's like they've been doing this for X amount of years.
It's oh my gosh, like just the pure discipline of it also takes time, but it does get easier over time. But I love that showing up and it's being you and it's continually opening the door. And when they've got a choice of many different providers, many different vendors, why are they going to choose you? Because it's you and you're presented here. And it's not always about the clever marketing messages or the high spend or the um, a genius level campaign. That all helps, but there's many free social platforms. It's getting out there, it's being heard, being seen as one essence of marketing.
Yeah, and just to add on the last point that you made about the clever big spend, that campaigns are its own thing. Like campaigns are its own topic, and that's very different than being consistent on social. It's its own topic. It's its own conversation. It's its own discussion that has obviously a place.
Ari, thank you very much. I hope we can continue the podcast conversation at some point soon. I really want to thank you and acknowledge you for your excellence and for your generosity of spirit and for bringing your wisdom here and sharing it with the Freedthinker audience. So thank you.
You're the man, Marcus. People should hire you.
Thank you for watching or listening in. Please make sure you follow our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and if you'd like email updates about future episodes, please sign up at freedthinking.com. I'm Marcus Freed. Keep thinking freely and stay creative. Goodbye for now.